Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
Welcome back to a different kind of episode. Hopefully you guys will find this one interesting. We most definitely did doing the research. I mean, it's a pretty wild case, so, might be a little long, but hang in there because I think it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, and it could have been, way longer, but we tried to just, get it into one episode. But it's pretty long, but it's kind of crazy. It takes a lot of twists and turns.
There's a lot to
unpack.
Yeah, sure. I'm very, very sleep deprived. I don't know where my brain was going with that thought. I'm hoping that my eyes can focus on the words enough to tell you this story, but I'm not completely confident in that ability. So, and for all of our local Tennessee, Knoxville listeners, this is the morning after that very interesting Ole Miss game. So if you guys are local, you know what we're talking about. It was a batshit crazy game for sure.
I tried to just do the longest sigh possible that you guys could hear. It was a shit show, and the game had to be paused for 20 minutes because people wouldn't stop throwing trash onto the field. And look, I've been at games where people throw shit and it's usually one or two, but this was somebody hit Lane Kiffin with a golf ball, which isn't funny, but it's kind of funny. Kind of impressive.
A little funny. If you guys don't know, Lane Kiffin used to be Tennessee's football coach and then kind of disappeared, literally in the middle of the night.
Left in the middle of the night to go take a job at USC. Yep. So a little bit of bad blood. We're a little bitter towards that. This was his first game back as a head coach. And so someone did throw a golf ball at him. I don't know why you had a golf ball, but okay.
Probably for that purpose.
Yeah, people threw water bottles, their beer, a bottle of mustard.
A full-ass bottle of mustard, guys.
A full-ass bottle. I don't know where they got it, because I've been to the concession stands, and I always thought they just had the mustard pumps.
Yeah.
They usually don't have just, a bottle of mustard. I don't know, guys. It is crazy. It's just...
I told Courtney somebody was leaving for the game, and they're like, all right, I got my wallet, I got my keys, I got my mask, I got my bottle of mustard, I'm ready to go. Got everything I need.
I mean, I've snuck in drinks before. I've tried to sneak in a little snack. A full bottle of mustard. Not even a packet, a full bottle of mustard.
I'm like, did you sneak in stuff with it or just the mustard? Did you have a whole hot dog too? I know they're expensive at the game, so I get it. But, and they had to evacuate, I don't know if that's the right word, but the cheerleaders, the dance team, the band, everyone had to leave because
they were getting
just so much
hit, especially the cheerleaders and dancers. The cheerleaders that were especially around the Ole Miss side were getting pelleted. I'm like, that is your own team.
Right? What are you doing?
And basically the cops just came in and was like, everybody leave. I don't care. Just leave. Just get out of here.
If you're in this general area, you got to go. Yeah.
Especially because they had to get some control over the game, because at that point UT still did have a chance to win. We still had all timeouts. We could have stopped them. We still had a chance. And they were like, you might have to call this game and lose because you're throwing shit.
Yeah, because your fans are throwing trash on the field.
And then our quarterback got hurt. It's not, the way he limped off does not make me hopeful he's going to come back.
Yeah.
And then our backup quarterback came in with 3 seconds left and decided to run out of bounds. So it's...
Just to conclude that shit show of a game. Yeah, so that's where we are at this fine Sunday morning.
And one more thing on it too. Just one more thing. So if you don't follow UT sports, over the summer, basically there was this big scandal where they said that we were slipping recruits money in McDonald's bags, all this stuff. So basically our athletic director, our coach, I think most of the coaching staff, don't quote me on that one, but most of the coaching staff were fired or resigned. Any good player we had entered the transfer portal. We were kind of coming in expecting this year to be absolute shit. This new coach didn't have a chance to recruit. We're just with this mosh posh group of people. And then we were coming into this game with a possibility to win against the number 13 team.
Yeah.
And this is how you react. Like,
Yeah.
the beginning of the season, I thought we were only going to win one game. I had lowest of expectations. And now we had a chance. And that's how you react. And it's just
And then you
annoying
just lose your mind. Yeah.
and embarrassing because it's like, that's going to be, like, people already hate on Tennessee. And that's just going to be, like, more ammo. So it's, maybe people forget.
So yeah, so that's where we are currently. We do have a few true crime updates before we get into today's episode. I believe we talked about this way back when it happened. It's been almost a year now. So hopefully we did, and I didn't just imagine that.
I think we did. I feel like I remember making a comment about it, but maybe I'm making that up in my head.
I remember this conversation, but I don't remember if we had it on air or if we just had this conversation. But
sure, that happens a lot.
Yeah. Do want to give a trigger warning for very gruesome child deaths. So if you don't want to hear this update, maybe hit the 30-second skip like 3 times and then you'll be good. But on November 29th, 2020, 13-year-old Malachi Taylor, Malika, I'm not sure, and 12-year-old Maurice Taylor Jr. were both murdered by their father, 35-year-old Maurice Taylor Sr., and their bodies were found on December 4th, so 5 days later, that both parents were living in the house with them, and both children were decapitated. So, obviously very, very gruesome death with your own children, and the mother was not arrested, and this is the conversation that Courtney and I remember having, either with you guys or just with ourselves, but everyone was wondering, was this a domestic violence situation? You know, was she in danger the whole time? Like, what happened? Like, how were you in this home, 4 or 5 days, 6 days with your decapitated children, and you didn't do anything. So I know there was some speculation about that, but just within the last few weeks, 44-year-old Natalie Brothwell, the mother, was arrested as well. She was also charged with murder and felony child endangerment. So it did take, quite a while, almost a year at this point, but they did charge her with those crimes as well. So something came about that they recognized that she had something to do with it too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking, and it's like, how can you do that to any child, but especially your own child? And like, I'll be very interested to see like if there is a trial, like all the information that comes out. Like, I really want to know like what changed for her to also be charged. Like what was revealed. So
definitely.
Also, we recently gave an update on this man, Robert Durst, because he was finally sentenced. Well, he was finally found guilty and sentenced to life, I think without parole, in prison. But now his lawyer just released that he does have COVID-19 and he is on a ventilator. So that life in prison might be very short.
Yes. The universe said they were just going to speed up that process.
Yeah, COVID's been horrible, but sometimes it's just like, let me find the person.
Sometimes karma comes through,
Yeah, so if there's any updates on that, we'll let you know. A lot of times once it does get to the ventilator portion of COVID-19, things aren't good. Robert Durst is pretty old in general and wasn't looking great at his trials. So, we'll give you an update if anything else happens with that.
Yep. And speaking of updates, we've updated you guys several times on this California family where both parents, the 1-year-old child, and their dog were found dead on a hiking trail. There is still no definitive cause of death. They have ruled out a lot of things. They did rule out a certain kind of toxic algae. They ruled out a lightning strike, carbon monoxide poisoning, several things. They are now looking at toxic algal. ALGAL is how it is spelled. Courtney and I are not quite sure how to pronounce it. I did think that Courtney didn't know how to spell algae when she was trying to tell this to me this morning. But it's not algae.
Sure algae is spelled ALGAE.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
There we
as
go.
well. Welcome
I'm not
to
that great
Courtney
at spelling,
and Jacqueline's
I'll
spelling
be honest. Kevin is like the speller. He like takes pride in knowing how to spell things.
Oh,
that's like his thing. So I'm always just like, Kevin, is this spelled right? Because if you look at a word too long, you're like,
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
That's what spell check's for. So, but they are looking at these toxic algal bloom. So a different kind of toxic material that could be present in the water. So they did also talk about heat exhaustion because it was super hot that day. So Courtney and I are wondering maybe they've reached that point of heat exhaustion. They're drinking local water. Maybe they had a filtration system that they thought would work and maybe it didn't. Maybe they didn't have one at all. Don't really know, but that's kind of where we're at with what they've been able to find with that situation.
Yeah, which is still just such a crazy situation. And like, yeah, like heat exhaustion is a thing, but for all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how long they were there before they were found. I don't know if anyone really knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy. And hopefully they'll get some answers soon, especially for their family, because I just couldn't imagine just being like, I don't know how you died. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Like, doesn't look like anything. Like, because I think they officially ruled out like suicide and like all that. So it's just like, what happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now that we've told you about the UT game and all these true crime updates, we're going to go ahead and get into this episode. So our sources for today, we used the Case File podcasts. It was episodes 76, 77, and 78. They're all called Silk Road, if you want to look them up by that. It was a very good series, very informative. Again, like we said, we could have made this episode like multiple parts. And he really goes way deeper into a lot of this stuff, but I just tried to reduce that a little bit. I don't want to keep you here. Yeah. We also used a CBS News article, Vanity Fair article, the justice.gov website, an article from there, and freeross.org. Spoiler. I'm just kidding. So we all learned about the Silk Road in school, right? You know, like the trade, like it was a network of like trade routes in the ancient days. And like, that's how like goods were transferred and eventually ideas, religion, diseases. And they just brought them from Asia to Europe. You know, it was like one of the world's first acts of globalization. That's kind of what everyone thinks of when they hear Silk Road. Sure, we've all heard of it. Sure, you all learned about it. But what if there's a more recent, more sinister Silk Road? Let's talk about it.
Also, what if someone saw the title of this episode and they're like, why are they talking about that? Like,
so basically,
episode podcast?
Marco Polo. He yelled Marco and someone yelled Polo and then he made a trade route.
Jacqueline and Courtney's history, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man. I mean, the Silk Road is very interesting, and I'm sure there was a lot of crime if we got into
true.
That.
Don't know how well documented, but that is true.
Yeah, so we probably won't touch on that, but also very interesting. So Ross William Albright was born on March 27th, 1984 in Austin, Texas. He was always described as nice, kind, helpful, and resourceful. He even became an Eagle Scout. And after high school, he got a full scholarship to study physics at the University of Texas in Dallas. So he did graduate in 2006, and he proposed to his longtime girlfriend. However, this girlfriend then admitted that she'd been cheating on him, basically their whole relationship, and they broke up. So
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so Ross just decided to return to Austin. He tried out for the Amazing Race, but it didn't work out. He's shooting a lot of shots that are getting shot down. So he decided to get his master's degree at Pennsylvania State University, and he got a full scholarship there. His focus was on material science and engineering, and at Penn State, he joined a group that focused on libertarianism. So if you aren't well versed in American politics, I'm sure it's other places too, but especially here, libertarianism basically believes that everything a person does should be up to them and no one else. So a lot of extreme libertarians believe there should be no government at all or very minimal involvement, which can be good in theory, but also then you get into like, that means no child labor laws. So then it gets a little fishy.
Yeah, like no protections for children, for workers, for really anything. No social safety nets. I mean, there's no food stamps, there's no welfare, there's literally nothing if you fall on your face. Like, there's a lot to that. And also getting into like public services, libraries, firefighters, police, like, there's, it's a lot. Anyway.
Yeah, because I can definitely, like, maybe less extreme libertarianism can kind of understand, but, like, some of the extreme ones, it is like, let's just all be on our own. No government at all. And, it gets a little fishy. So Ross decided to live differently after this, and he moved into a basement where he could live for free, and he only wore clothes he got for free. And Ross also advocated for the legalization of all drugs because the government shouldn't tell people what they can put in their bodies. So, I didn't really think about how dicey this topic is right now.
Ooh, yeah, this is,
oh, man. Just kind of, boom, hit me. He also believed it would be safer in general, which I can't honestly disagree with. If drugs are legalized, that it might be a bit safer. I also believe, why don't you just legalize it and tax it and then make that money? Ross was not thinking that because, again, doesn't believe in government, but...
doesn't believe in taxes, but... And also probably wouldn't believe in, like, the FDA or anything. But if it is legalized, there is more, like, regulation. So, if you're buying weed, you're just getting weed and not weed laced with... I don't even know what you can lace weed with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I think that is a thing right now, not to get on, like, a soapbox or something, but a lot of people who are, buying drugs illegally, a lot of things are being laced with fentanyl, which is very, very deadly. So you go and you might be getting cocaine or heroin or meth, and it is laced with this fentanyl, and so you're taking your normal dose, but it's actually killing you. So I do believe if it was legalized, like, you wouldn't have to worry. You would be getting, like, pure. But that's never gonna happen, let's be honest. Weed, maybe, but none of those.
Well, Oregon has, I don't know if they've, we should probably just cut this out, probably talking out my ass. I don't know if they've legalized or if they just decriminalized. You know what I mean?
I think they decriminalized, but I'm not sure.
Anyway, that's besides the point.
Okay. Now that we've got off on some tangents, okay. So Ross graduated from Penn State, but then decided he didn't want to pursue a future in science. So, great. He wanted to become an entrepreneur, and he wanted to put his libertarianism thoughts to action. So Ross was always on his laptop, and he was very good with technology. And at the end of 2009, he started talking to someone named Otto on a libertarian website. So Ross was wanting to create a free trade market on the internet that was outside of the control and regulation of the government. So Otto told him there was a way to do that, and it was called Tor. So Tor allows you to look into the dark web, which is essentially like the entirety of the internet. So it is hard. I think we talked about this in an episode before, which is what sparked this. Like, it is kind of hard to, like, stumble upon the dark web. Like, you can't really do that because you do have to use this Tor, like, browser. Like, you can't just use a regular web browser. And it's, like, a software that works as a web browser. So I think you, like, download it, and once you access it, it's like a web browser for, like, the dark web.
Yeah, like, you're intentionally trying to access the dark web. It's not going to pop up on your Google search.
Yeah, it's not gonna. Yeah, it's not just gonna be like darkweb.com. Okay, cool.
Click, I'm in. Username and password. Okay, done.
Yeah. And a little history, Tor was actually created by the U.S. Navy and was supposed to be used to protect communication inside the government. So that's kind of what it was intended for, and then you know what happens when the public gets a hold of it. It never ends up good. So Otto told Ross how with Tor you can browse anonymously and you can't be traced. Also with Tor, you can't just browse like you can on Google. Like, you can't just type in drugs and then things pop up. You have to know where you're going. So it's kind of like the internet used to be, where you had to type in like www.myspace.com. You know, you couldn't just type MySpace into the search bar. But and most websites in Tor, they don't use regular web addresses. It's usually just a combination of random letters and numbers. So again, it's hard to like stumble upon these sites. You have to be like looking for it. So while obviously this is used for illegal things like murder for hire and child pornography, it can also be used for like non-criminal reasons. So it can be used to access websites without your data being taken by companies, or in countries where the government monitors their web usage. So if you want to like just scroll Facebook and post about how your government sucks, like you can do that on Tor and your government can't really see that. It can also be used in interviews with whistleblowers to assure they keep their identity hidden, which I thought that one was cool too, especially with these big, companies where there's a whistleblower, like it ensures their safety. So it can be used for good reasons, but that's not what was on Ross's mind. So it sounded like a perfect place to create his free trade marketplace, but he needed to find a way to provide an anonymous way for payment. And so Ross soon found Bitcoin. So we all know Bitcoin now, but in like 2009, nobody knew Bitcoin. And if you don't know Bitcoin still, it is a form of cryptocurrency. And, in 2009, it was very, very new. So Ross decided to create his website like all by himself, and he taught himself coding and programming and designed it entirely himself, which is pretty impressive if you're just figuring it out on your own. And he didn't want anyone else to be a part of it because obviously this is going to be very illegal. So you don't want to like tell 50 people what you're doing. And he wanted to use it to let people sell drugs. So there was only one person he did trust to help him with coding. And it was a friend named Richard. He'd met at University of Texas. So Richard would help fix issues, but Ross would not tell him like what he was doing it for. So Richard didn't know like what the site was, just that there was a site. So in January 2011, the website was ready to launch. He had completed everything and had even made his own shrooms to sell on the website. So he figured if he was caught selling psychedelic mushrooms, he would have a lesser punishment than selling heroin or cocaine. And finally, he just needed a name, and that's when he decided on Silk Road. And when he launched it, he only shared it with his girlfriend, Julia. And his website had the shrooms on it and said Silk Road in green with like a camel. So he's kind of throwing a little shout out. That's not the word I wanted.
Reference.
You guys know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
A little like, anyway, going great, guys. Words are going great for us today.
Just what you want when you have a podcast.
Yep. So he had also written a how-to guide on the website to help people learn how to use Bitcoin and Silk Road. And Ross also made posts on other sites to try and get some traction on the website. So on opening day, Silk Road got a few visits, but no purchases. But eventually people did start buying off of there. And soon people were visiting Silk Road to buy and sell. But then other people were also promoting it. So it kind of is like he made a few posts, but suddenly people found it and they're sharing. And we all know that's the best way to share is like word of mouth, is just getting it out there. So there were now about 30 different listed drugs on the site. And by April 2011, the number of registered users reached 1,000. So Silk Road made money because they acted as a middleman between buyer and seller. So basically, when someone bought something, they'd put it in a cart like you would on any online site, and they would pay for it. And the money would go into Silk Road's account until the buyer received the drugs and was satisfied. So if you don't receive the drugs, you're not satisfied, you get your money back. If you are satisfied, it goes to the seller. So yeah, once that happened, Silk Road delivers money to the seller, but they do charge a fee to act as a middleman. At its beginning, the commission was 6.23%, and Silk Road was able to allow the drugs bought on Silk Road to be delivered to the person's house also, which seems kind of risky. But he did disguise it as like a book purchase, so he would kind of like make it like someone just bought a book, but it's actually drugs, which kind of also goes back into this. He thinks it's safer for this site because like you're not having to go like meet up with someone in an alley like we all think that's how you buy drugs. You can just get it delivered straight to your house. I mean, could it be any easier? So by April 2011, Ross was starting to make money. And so Ross had invested $17,000 creating the website, and he now started to make that money back and a few extra thousand on top. So Julia was now getting worried about the popularity of the site. So in the first few weeks, it was mostly psychedelics like weed and shrooms, but now people were selling speed and cocaine and heroin. And Julia really thought his consequences would be more severe if he was caught. So she's like, this is getting a little dicey.
Getting a little out of hand here.
She was also worried someone would overdose. And so Ross tried to reassure her by saying that they had a rating system. So if someone sold bad drugs, they'd get a bad rating and no one would buy from them. Not sure how this is going to help that person who got bad drugs.
Yeah. Glad you can help everyone else, but...
Yeah, so, I guess, at least you do kind of have, that rating system. And it's you kind of get kicked out and you can't keep selling it. But that first person who finds out, not fun. So on June 1st, 2011, an article was released talking about Silk Road. So Ross had tried to get the article to be pushed back, but he had no success. He did tell the interviewer he felt that he was making buying drugs safer for users. And this article exploded, and it was read by millions of people. Mm-hmm. So this article really brought Silk Road to its fame, and even New York Senator Chuck Schumer saw it and made a press release trying to get it taken down. And West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin also joined Schumer in calling for it to be taken down, and they joined forces and wrote a letter to the Attorney General and Department of Justice. So they're like, this is unacceptable that you have this website that sells drugs, get this shit gone. Mm-hmm. So Ross decided to write a response, and he posted on Silk Road under the name admin, which is how all users knew him. And it said, as many of you know, U.S. senators are aware of this site and aiming to take it down. The die have been cast, and now we will see how they land. We will be diverting even more efforts into countering their attacks and making the site as resilient as possible, which means we may not be as responsive to messages for a while. I'm sure this news will scare some off, but should we win the fight, a new era will be born. Even if we lose, the genie's out of the bottle, and they are fighting a losing war already. It is better to live one day as a lion than 100 years as a lamb. So while Ross sounds pretty tough and fearless in this letter, in real life, things weren't as together. So with all the recent press, the amount of registered users jumped from 1,000 to 10,000. So this article really just helped Silk Road and helped Ross. The forums were filled with endless posts. Ross was also having some issues with Bitcoin too. So every time there was a new purchase, he was losing Bitcoin out of his own account, and he didn't know why. And he was also not 100% sure if his website could handle the amount of traffic. You weren't expecting to have 10,000 people 6 months after you launch your site.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you want to attract people to make money, but at the same time, it's if you attract too many people, that's not really what you want for something on the dark web.
Yeah. So Ross actually did shut down Silk Road on June 9th, which was only 8 days after the article was released. And Ross was able to successfully rewrite the code to fix his Bitcoin issues. And he fixed a few other issues he had as well and reopened Silk Road on June 17th. So Silk Road continued to grow, and Silk Road was even called the Amazon of drug sites because, quick delivery straight to your home. It's Amazon. So sellers were now selling guns on Silk Road, and in early September 2011, Julia gave Ross an ultimatum. It was either her or Silk Road because she already was kind of iffy with these harder drugs, and now guns. Mm-hmm. She's like,
this is too far.
Yeah, and Ross chose Silk Road. They did remain on good terms after their breakup, and Julia had actually told a friend about Silk Road, who was threatening to tell people. So Julia had told someone else, and now Ross is like, oh, she's going to tell everyone it's me. That friend even ended up posting something on Facebook about Silk Road on Ross's wall. So Ross is like, I got to leave Austin. And he moved to Sydney, Australia, which is just his first of many moves. So it's coming. So while all this is happening, a few ecstasy pills coming through Chicago from the Netherlands were being found. So the first was going to Minneapolis, and it was a single pill, so no one really did anything. They were like, oh, someone bought one ecstasy pill. Oh, well.
Like, is that worth our time and effort? Like,
yeah, like, we'll just confiscate this, like, whatever.
mm-hmm.
But a few months later, another one was found, and he opened the envelope and found the ecstasy pill again. So Homeland Security was contacted, and they went to the recipient's house, and the roommate said it came from Silk Road. So he's like, yep, that's where it came from. Here you go.
That's where I got it.
So an officer with Homeland Security, Jared Duryagan, I've listened to this guy's name so many times, and I'm still questioning myself. He Googled Silk Road. He found the instructions on how to get into the site, and Jared tried to start building a case against Silk Road. So Jared went to his supervisor and was wondering if they were able to get a large enough amount of drugs if it would be taken seriously. Like, okay, we just have 2 ecstasy pills, but if I can go on here and buy all this stuff, can we have a case now?
Mm-hmm.
So Jared did start collecting the drugs that were found, and by the end of November 2011, he had about 100 envelopes with drugs in them. So Jared felt he had enough to make a case at this point. So Jared made a presentation of his findings and said how the site could be used for terrorism later. Like, it may be simple now, but what can this be used for down the road?
Mm-hmm.
And he was given the green light to open a case. And in December, he made an account with Silk Road and started profiling. So he wanted to find out who ran Silk Road, but he kind of started slow. And he started as a buyer and trying to profile the different sellers. And he even bought a few various drugs to try and get in through the system.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the only way to get involved with something like this is to go undercover and become a part of it, because how else are you going to get the information you need,
Yeah.
So around this time, a man named Variety Jones reached out to Ross, and so he was going to give Ross some tips on security and protecting the site, and they did end up forming a friendship. So Variety was soon making decisions with Ross on Silk Road, and then they started discussing their personal lives, so, things kind of escalated with their, friendship, partnership, whatever, and Ross told Variety that 2 people knew that he had started Silk Road. And so Variety thought that he had come up with a solution to this problem. So he brought up the Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride. So basically, in the movie, Dread Pirate Roberts wasn't a single person, but a series of men. So the title was passed on to a successor when the current one retired. So basically, no one knew who the original Dread Pirate Roberts was. So it just kind of conceals that identity. So Variety told Ross that he should change his name from admin to Dread Pirate Roberts. So Ross could now say that he gave the site to someone else. So he's like, I don't know where it went, what happened. And
it's
the Silk
not
Road
me.
community. Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with this. And the Silk Road community actually really loved this new change. They were on board with this. Silk Road was also experiencing some issues with hackers, undelivered packages, and just some other things that were kind of going on at this point. So Ross and Variety were trying to come up with ways to fix the issues, and Ross decided at this point to leave Australia and return to Austin. So while he was in the process of moving, Jared was still trying to profile Silk Road, but things were moving slower than he thought it would. So a year after the article was released, Silk Road was still being talked about in the media, NPR, ABC, it's still pretty out there and well known. And journalists were shocked when they went to the site and they would see the posts and the discussions, because they weren't just trolls. They actually had intellectual conversations, debates, forum threads talking about charity. There was even a harm minimization discussion where an actual doctor participated. There were comments from terminally ill cancer patients thanking them for allowing them to get access to cannabis. So they're like, this is different than what we thought this site was going to be. We didn't expect all of this, and positive responses too.
Mm-hmm.
But Ross was having a few issues with Silk Road that he needed to address. Buyers and sellers were now trading off-site to avoid the high flat rate commission fee. So Ross now did away with the fee and said the commission would be scaled. So orders less than $50 had the highest percentage of commission at 10%, and then orders over $1,000 had the lowest at 1.5%, with other levels in between. So they thought that this commission rate would be helpful, but many of the sellers were pretty pissed about this. They're like, no, this isn't what we wanted.
Because I'm sure most of the purchases were like cheap purchases. You know, someone being like, oh, like I'm going to, a party. I want one ecstasy pill, or I just want a little bit of weed. Like no one is really out there like buying bulk drugs. So
yeah. So, like Courtney said, in general, Silk Road's really used by recreational users. So, like, they're only making a few small purchases, and they're now having to pay bigger fees on those purchases. So the Silk Road forums just went crazy with complaints, like they were just outraged. So Ross, as the Dread Pirate Roberts, tried to release a statement shaming people for saying he was greedy and thanking people who supported him. But Ross was worried that people might jump ship or create a copycat site. So Variety Jones agreed to talk to a few sellers and buyers to see like how they were feeling about everything. So at this time, Ross decided to do a big 420 sale. So on April 20th, 2012, the biggest sale ever started at 4:20 p.m. and went until April 22nd at 5:20 p.m. So during this time, a buyer could win a prize every 420 seconds, and there were a total of 420 prizes. So the biggest prize was a trip for two for 12 days with $2,000 spending money. So, you got a lot to look forward to. So every time you made a purchase, you got a ticket to be entered to win this big prize. And Ross also added a 10% sale because he didn't charge commission fees during this time. So then Ross got an offer from a user named Knob to build a new site called Masters of the Silk Road for like the big sellers. So Ross really wanted to expand Silk Road in some form. Like we said, guns were now starting to be sold on Silk Road, and some of the users weren't really happy about this. One user had written like a single shotgun or a rifle didn't really bother them, but like the ability to buy automatic weapons with like just,
no
anyone
background.
able yeah, exactly, like anyone able to just like buy these large quantities of like these massive weapons, they're like, I don't know about this. So they did create a poll asking if users wanted to see guns being removed from Silk Road. So they're like, what do you guys think about this? But the vote was like 50-50, so not very helpful. But many people thought that selling guns would bring more attention to law enforcement and would ultimately be the site's downfall. So Variety told Ross that people may like stop coming to the website if they see that guns are sold because they're like, I don't want to be a part of this if it's likely to get police attention. So like, well, maybe we should create another website just for guns. So they did create this website and called it The Armory. And they soon realized that selling weapons was a lot harder than selling drugs. Like the shipping practices are really hard. Like it's a lot easier to sell drugs, through the mail rather than weapons. So like, we got more logistics to kind of figure out here. It's a lot harder to conceal a weapon in the mail than an ecstasy pill.
Yeah, and I can definitely see why people were like upset about this change because I think being able to buy drugs and weapons are two very different things where I'm like, I can kind of see like a safe place to buy drugs, especially if you're just wanting to recreationally use and you don't want to get something like bad and stuff versus like, oh, you can buy like 10 AK-47s on this site is very different. And especially with Ross being like, the government shouldn't tell us what we can put in our bodies, but it's like, okay, but guns are completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Definitely. So in the summer of 2012, Ross moved to San Francisco. But Ross and Variety did get into a fight around this time because the person who won the main prize from the 420 sale overdosed on heroin. So he was now trying to get clean, and Variety's like, I don't think we should really give him the money. Like, maybe this isn't the best idea. Like, he bought heroin off of our site and overdosed from it, but Ross just laughed it off and disagreed with him. So in November of 2012, Ross traveled to Dominica. He was having issues with like getting the money from his Bitcoin because it kept asking him where he got that money. But he read that in Dominica, you could buy citizenship with an investment of $75,000, and it was also a tax-free country. So obviously Ross is all about that.
Yep.
So he went there to have his citizenship expedited, and while he was traveling, Silk Road did become victim to hackers. So Ross ultimately is like, okay, I'm going to have to follow your wishes. So he handed over $10,000 in Bitcoin, and then the hackers were like, oh, okay, like that was easy, that worked, let's ask for more. So they asked for $15,000 more, and Ross did end up paying up. And the hacking attacks did end, but scammers were also trying to add fake buy buttons on the site and like take money from people that way. So it's starting to become not as like safe, quote unquote, I guess, as it was before. Like it's now becoming victim to scammers and not as like trusted as it was before this. Also around this time, other listings started popping up like cyanide. They didn't list it as a poison, but as a cleaning substance. But we all know how extremely deadly a small amount of cyanide is. And also, with each purchase, the seller would include a copy of the book, The Final Exit, A Guide to Suicide. And Ross allowed this listing. It's like, okay, things are...
A little questionable.
we're going down a dark rabbit hole here. So now listings are starting to be things like kidneys and livers. But the seller said, like, this operation's going to be consensual. So Ross is like, okay, like, as long as everyone's consenting, that's fine. No big deal. So Silk Road did have a lot of illegal substances, but they did have a set of moral codes. So child pornography, stolen goods, stolen personal information, and assassinations were banned on Silk Road. But they were not against the selling of organs or body parts as long as both parties consented. And Ross even thought that it could be good for expanding his business by having these listings. Because obviously organs and body parts are going to sell for a much higher price. I mean, a kidney is worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So he's like, look how much money I can make on someone else selling their body parts.
Yeah.
Okay. So while all of this is happening, there's also the Marco Polo Task Force that has been dedicated to trying to stop Silk Road. So it is comprised of Homeland Security, DEA, Secret Service, and even postal workers who are tracking the drugs in the mail. So this giant task force with all these federal agents trying to figure out how to get this site down. And their biggest asset was DEA agent Carl Force, who was posing as a man named Knob on Silk Road.
Sound familiar?
So Carl actually did not have the authorization to do this, so he just kind of went out and did it on his own. But he was the one who had reached out to Ross about the Masters of the Silk Road site, and all of Carl's conversations with Dread Pirate robbers were being monitored by the Marco Polo Task Force. So Carl's conversations went really deep sometimes, including personal information, but the task force was most concerned about the information he was giving Ross about drug smuggling. Like he's explaining how to avoid the mail system entirely when smuggling drugs. So they suggested a lockbox type thing so a seller could leave it and the buyer could pick it up without having to meet face to face. So they're like, Carl, you're sharing a little too much here.
Giving him too many good ideas.
Yeah. There's a fine line between, like, not blowing your cover and, like, giving too much away, you know? So Carl's supervisor did question some of the interactions, but Carl maintained that he was just trying to get Dread Pirate Robert's trust. So he's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. Like, you know, sometimes you have to, like, do illegal things to show these people that you're, like, part of them, you know?
Yeah.
Like with, I don't know if this actually happens. I don't know many or any drug dealers in real life, but you know, like on TV, it's like, oh, well, you have to do a line of cocaine before I'll allow you to sell cocaine for me because I have to believe that you're like legit. So the one problem with the task force is that there was a lot of competition between the different agencies and even like specific agents because everyone wanted to be the person that took down Silk Road. Like it was just going to like make their career. They're like, I have to be the one. But of course, this results in bad communication between the agencies because no one wants to share the information that they do have.
I think we see that a lot with like serial killers or multiple like murders and stuff where like these different agencies like just will not talk to each other and they're like, this is my case and you can't. And I'm like, if y'all all just like teamed up,
yep,
you know, it can work, but you're being selfish.
The mission overall is more important than your personal pride of being the one to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So Carl did try to buy drugs and set up a sting for when the deliveries came. So they did target a moderator, Curtis, and so he came in when they picked up the package that had a kilo of cocaine. So they soon found out that he had other roles in Silk Road as well. So he would help to verify the Bitcoin purchases. He maintained the logins and the passwords for all the users. So they're like, okay, we got to try to get as much information from this guy's computer as possible because he has a lot here. So Ross grew suspicious when Curtis didn't log in the next day, because he was the one that received this kilo of cocaine and then he just kind of disappeared. So Ross was able to see that Curtis was arrested, and a few days later he discovered that there was also $350,000 stolen from user accounts, and Curtis was the only one who had access to this money. So Ross obviously is pretty pissed off and thinks that Curtis needs to learn a lesson. So Ross discussed this with Variety Jones, and they agreed that they were going to rough Curtis up a little bit. So they tried to find someone who would do this. And at this time, special agents were meeting with Curtis, who was trying to downplay his role. His lawyer did advise him to tell everything. So he did start talking, but he didn't give away any information that they already knew. So Carl, as Knob, messaged Dread Pirate Roberts on a break from this conversation. And Dread Pirate Roberts told him that he was pissed because an employee had stolen Bitcoin from him. So Carl was shocked when he found out that this was Curtis, but Curtis denied stealing the Bitcoin. So Dread Pirate Roberts was asking Knob/Carl if he knew anyone who could beat Curtis up. So Carl's like, yeah, I can do it quickly, no big deal. So Carl is now going to pretend to torture Curtis, but it has to look real. And Curtis agreed, and Carl filmed it. So now that this is happening, Ross is wondering if he's doing the right thing and decides that he wants to kill Curtis instead. This isn't enough. We're just going to go all in. So Ross messaged Knob, and Knob was like, okay, I'll kill Curtis. So they agreed on $80,000, and he would pay $40,000 up front and then $40,000 once the job was completed. So a week later, Knob said, Curtis is dead and dealt with, I'll send a picture, and Dread Pirate Roberts got the email of Curtis's body and paid the money. So Dread Pirate Roberts now believed that Curtis was actually dead, but he wasn't because they had faked his death and sent him a fake picture. And Carl had told Curtis how to do this and make it look legit,
Yeah, which very lucky for Curtis that Knob was Carl.
Right? You got lucky there.
Yeah. So after the ordered hit, things did not get easier for Silk Road. There was always some security issue, a scam, a hacking attempt. I mean, you have all these people on there, you're going to get hacked constantly.
Yeah, for sure.
Ross got a lot of extortion attempts too. So one extortionist, Friendly Chemist, was trying to get a lot of money from Ross, saying he had names of users. So Ross decided the best way to deal with this was to just execute the person trying to extort him.
I mean, clearly, what else would you do?
Yeah. So the person he was contacting was called Red and White, and he was trying to charge $150,000 to $300,000 depending on the type of hit. So Ross is like, I mean, this is pretty steep because I just paid $80,000 for the hit on Curtis. So you're kind of upcharging me, Mm-hmm. But they did agree on a $150,000 fee and photographic proof. Red and White later told Ross that they had questioned Friendly Chemist before killing him, and he was partners with another user known as Tony76. So when Ross did that 420 sale, Tony76 tried to cheat the system and asked people to pay fully in advance instead of going through Silk Road's escrow system. So he was telling people, hey, send me the money on the side, pay for it in advance, all this, trying to cheat the system here. And many people did this and they got scammed out of their money. So obviously Ross does not like this guy. Not a big fan of Tony76. And the hitman ended up getting the name, the real name of Tony76. But there was an issue as he lived with 3 other drug dealers as well.
I'm just imagining too, because we have all of these usernames, and I'm like, what if Tony was like, what's a good name? I'll just add a number to it. They'll never know my name is Tony. If his real name was Tony, he's like, Tony76, that's good. I can hide my identity.
That's good. It's usually Anthony, but maybe if I put Tony, they'll never So Ross now wants to also kill Tony 76. And Red and White was offering to kill Tony 76 and his 3 partners for $500,000.
That's a bargain. I mean,
yeah, you're getting like 4 for like 500,000. Like, go for it, right? Red and White thought there would be a better chance of getting back the stolen money if they killed them all. So Ross thought about it, and he decided to go ahead and give the go-ahead. Like, go ahead, man. Sounds good. And a week later, Red and White said the problem had been dealt with. So Ross had now paid for what he believed 6 murders. So Curtis, Friendly Chemist, Tony 76, and Tony 76 3 roommate partners. Mm-hmm. Also around this time, the FBI cybercrime unit was thinking of investigating Silk Road. So they thought about it for a while, but they didn't really know where to start. Like, where do you even start with this crazy shit? So the DEA team had been trying to investigate, but they didn't have any experience in this type of cybercrime and technology investigation. And the cybercrime unit had the opposite problem. So the cybercrime knew the technology, but they didn't know how to handle the drug aspect, and the DEA knew how to handle the drug aspect, but didn't really know the technology. So it's like, hey guys, team up. That's like, why don't you team up?
I mean, teamwork makes the dream work, you know?
Yep, it does. So Ross had become more bold with what he was selling on Silk Road, and now hacking tools were to be sold. So the crime unit found that there were keyloggers, banking trojans, malware applications, spyware applications, and a lot more. So this was cybercrime unit's door into the investigation. So they're like, okay, now we can get permission to start investigating, and they did. And while looking it over, they realized the only way to bring down Silk Road was going to be by human error. Mm-hmm. The technology was strong. Tor and Bitcoin kept users anonymous. But this is all being built by humans, and humans make mistakes. We do. Mm-hmm. None of us are perfect. It's going to happen. And they're like, what we're just going to have to do is wait on this human error. And finally, it started to come. So Ross had been dealing with security issues from the beginning, and in May 2013, he was dealing with another one. So there was a coding error that made the IP address go public. Not great.
That's not what you want on the dark web at all.
No. So Ross fixed it quickly, and it was no longer showing. But Ross was worried because if someone was watching at that time, they would have seen it. And the FBI cybercrime was watching at this time. So an agent was able to track the IP address to Iceland. An agent flew to Iceland and was able to get access to the server. And in June 2013, they were provided with a thumb drive, and they went to look into it. But after a few seconds, all they could see were like folders that held Silk Road, but they were all encrypted, so they couldn't access any of it. So Variety Jones was right in giving Ross advice to just encrypt everything. Like, don't leave anything just like open. Mm-hmm. And they were having the hardest time cracking any of these encryptions. But they did get a break because apparently Iceland had given them the passcode to open the files. Someone just hadn't given it to looked at it. So.
Oh, okay.
They had the password right there. And the password was, try to crack this, NSA, all one word.
Well, they did.
They did. So now they had full access to the Silk Road files. On July 13th, 2013, a meeting was held by the Department of Justice, and they said there are too many agencies working on Silk Road but not communicating. So at this time, there was a DA force in Baltimore, Chicago, and New York all working separately. And again, this task force is made up of agents from all different places, and the DEA alone has 3 different places not working together. And there are people from the Secret Service, the Homeland Security, the postal workers, now the FBI cybercrime unit. Like, we have way too many departments here that are not working together. So one of the agents, Gary Alford, studied Dread Pirate Robert posts on Silk Road. And Gary Alford was actually with the IRS, who had been interested to help when the cybercrime unit had been asked. So he noticed that Dread Pirate Robert seemed to have an extensive knowledge of U.S. politics, so he believed he's likely going to be from the U.S. And he also thought it was likely that Dread Pirate Roberts was white and from the suburbs because of an early post he said, like, Silk Road was safer, unlike getting it from, quote, those people on the streets who will beat you up and rob you. So he was kind of talking about, like, street, like getting it on the street as, like, these, like, thugs and these people. So he's like, I think you're going to be white and from the suburbs.
Yeah, makes sense. 100%.
So after studying the writings, Gary went to try and find other posts that sounded similar. And on a few other websites, they found similar postings of a person recommending Silk Road under the username Altoid. So Gary reached out to these sites to try and get user information, and the email was under Frosty@Frosty, but the person had entered another email first that could still be seen. And the email was rossalbright@gmail.com. So, not great.
No.
So, Gary just completed a simple Google search for Ross Albright and found his LinkedIn page. All of the things lined up with his profile of him. He's from the US, he's white, from the suburbs. But Ross didn't have a computer science background, which they thought was very vital for Dread Pirate Roberts because of how extensive this site is. Mm-hmm. So Gary wasn't convinced it was Ross, but he did add him to the suspect list. So at the group meeting on July 13th, he was very excited to share like what he'd found. But this meeting was like also determine who should handle the investigation of Silk Road. And so things got very heated because the Baltimore team refused to reveal anything they had, and it had not gone well. So they're still, even in this group meeting, being like, we're not telling you.
This is mine. You can't have it.
So Jared Duryagan from Chicago, mentioned him earlier, decided to take an opposite position. And he told them absolutely everything he had and how he'd found a bunch of users, seized a lot of drugs in the mail. So he's trying to be like, maybe if I'm upfront and honest, you guys will be too. Mm-hmm. In this meeting, the FBI also broke the news that they had the server, but had not had time to properly go through it. So Gary changed his mind and didn't share what he'd found at the meeting because he felt everyone was just in competition, and he really didn't have that much. He's like, I just searched this guy on Google. It's not like I have anything firm. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the meeting, they said that the Department of Justice would evaluate everything and pick someone to lead the investigation. So this time, Carl, who was still pretending to be a user on Silk Road, told Ross that he had a corrupt FBI agent contact who would help him, and his name was simply Kevin.
Always a Kevin.
It's always a Kevin. So spoiler, it was just Carl with a new username. He's like, I don't want to be Knob anymore. I'm going to be Kevin.
Yep.
So he told him the FBI had arrested some sellers and had access to Silk Road files. So Ross now decided, okay, I gotta move houses and change my name. So he found a room in a house that he could rent for cash, and he created his new identity and introduced himself as Joshua Terry. So Joshua was 29 years old, from Texas, and worked as a currency trader and did freelance computer work on the side. He liked to keep to himself and work on his computer a lot, so he told his roommates this so they wouldn't be suspicious. He's like, hey, all my work's on my computer, so if I'm on my computer like 23 hours and then sleep one, it's casual. It's normal.
That's just what I do. It's no big deal.
Yeah. And he made a lot of details close to his own so he wouldn't forget them, so he didn't like slip up. Mm-hmm. And he ordered a new ID with his new name on Silk Road, and he ended up ordering actually 9 new IDs. I don't know why you needed so many. So an officer found the mail that was heading to Ross and grew suspicious since there was like 3 similar envelopes with like small differences. And he's like, this is kind of weird. So he did fill out a form allowing him to open it and found the 9 fake IDs. So they did call a Homeland Security officer who looked at the 9 IDs, and the agent visited the house that they were addressed to, but when he arrived, a man who didn't speak English answered the door, and the agent just left with no answers. But then 2 weeks later, the agent realized he went to the wrong house. So it was like, I can't remember exactly, it was like 12th Street and he went to 12th Avenue or some like little difference like that. So he's like, okay, let me send some agents to the correct house. And they saw the man who was in the fake ID pictures, and Ross opened the door. So the agents asked him to step outside, and they showed him the IDs, but he didn't say anything. And they did demand to see his real ID, but nothing flagged on their checks. Again, Ross Ulbright, while he has this intricate system, has never really been in trouble with the law. So, so Ross was very nervous, and it was so visible. The agents were like, "Can you calm down? Will you calm down? We just want to know where you got these IDs from." And Ross wasn't sure if it was a trick or not. So he's like, "Do they know? Or am I going to reveal it?"
Because at this point, he's like, are they here because they think I'm a customer or because they know that I'm running this whole thing? Like,
yeah, because he's like, are they going to be like, "Oh, so you know about Silk Road? We know it's you." Like, you know. So then they were like, okay, let's say hypothetically you got these IDs. Where'd you get them from? So Ross told them anyone could go on the internet and go to Silk Road and get them. So these agents didn't know what Silk Road was because they weren't on any of these task forces. So they're like, Silk Road, okay. They just left.
That great communication again.
I'm sure Ross went and took a shower because he was sweating from head to toe.
Probably pooped himself, you know.
Yeah. So Jared and the various task force continued trying to crack into Silk Road. And they were able to determine that one of the IP addresses was coming from a coffee shop in San Francisco. But obviously, you can't send someone to a coffee shop in San Francisco looking for someone on a laptop because everyone at a coffee shop is on a laptop.
Yeah, that's exactly that's everything there.
So Gary, who'd been the one to discover the Ross Ulbright email address, was looking around the room, and the San Francisco coffee shop stood out to him too. But again, it was just kind of dismissed by the FBI agent, so he was like, I mean, I do kind of have this, and they're like, nah, no.
Not a lot to...
No, it doesn't matter.
So Ross decided that it was time to leave San Francisco. He felt that he'd been there too long, especially after the agents had come to visit him. But while he was thinking of moving, Gary still just couldn't get this guy off of his mind. So he's like, is this Ross, this Dread Pirate Roberts? And he just had a really strong feeling that he was right. So he asked a Homeland Security officer to run Ross's name. So he'd done it before, but he's like, maybe something new would come up this time. And Ross did have a travel record that showed that he had been to Dominica recently. So then there was also the hit from the fake IDs, and in the report they mentioned how Ross had told them about Silk Road, and that's where he purchased the fake IDs. And so Gary is just like stunned because he's like, this is all coming together, you know? So he ran to his supervisor's office and he's like, this is him, this is the guy. So Gary told the assistant U.S. attorney who was working with the FBI agents on this case. He wasn't fully convinced, but he did agree to go have Ross checked out. And one of Ross's addresses in San Francisco from when he first moved there was actually down the street from the coffee shop that the IP address was pulled from. So soon Gary was explaining to all of the investigators about how he found out about Ross, how the email was changed to the fake one, frosty@frosty.com, and this triggered a memory in one of the investigators' mind because when they got the server from Iceland, the Dread Pirate Roberts server and computer were both called Frosty. So basically, Gary had found the Dread Pirate Roberts from a Google search.
Yep, that was it. He's like, I just Googled it.
Yep. So it took about a week to start up an undercover surveillance team that was going to follow Ross. So all other agents were told to stop communication and logging on to Silk Road. They're like, we're doing this now. We got this. So they kept him under surveillance for 2 weeks. And when Ross was seen on his laptop, the Dread Pirate Roberts was seen online. And when Ross closed his laptop, it was the exact same time that Dread Pirate Roberts logged off. So agents at this point had no doubt that Ross was Dread Pirate Roberts. So they planned for the arrest to occur on August 1st, 2013, but it was absolutely important that the laptop stay open and was powered on when Ross was arrested. Because in the trial, just saying that Ross was posting on forums and happened to have his laptop open when Dread Pirate Roberts was online wasn't going to hold enough weight. They're like, this laptop has to be open, logged in for us to be able to make a case. Like, we have to arrest him at the time he's on it.
Yeah, I mean, talk about reasonable doubt of being like, well, his laptop was open when this guy was online. Okay, how many millions of laptops around the world were also open?
Exactly. They're like, we have all this other things leading us to this, but we need something more concrete to go off of here. So they did decide that a local team would make the arrest because of a jurisdiction issue, but the San Francisco team was not in on this investigation, so they didn't really know about Ross, Dread Pirate Roberts, or the importance of this laptop. All they knew was that Ross was considered extremely dangerous. They had seen the chat logs where Ross had ordered the murder for hire, so they were going to arrest him with the assistance of a SWAT team. So they had to be completely quiet so that he wasn't tipped off, because then if he was, he would just hit the kill switch and they would lose all of the data that they needed to make their case. So they're like, we have to take him by surprise before he has time to delete everything. Again, they needed his laptop open to Silk Road. So the FBI agents were nervous about using the SWAT team, so they came up with a new plan. So they were going to try to catch him in public using public Wi-Fi and chatting with Jared, who had been pretending to be a Silk Road employee. So Ross did end up showing up to the cafe as they hoped, but he walked out 30 seconds later. The cafe was packed, so they're like, he thought that it was too dangerous to go in and log in. So instead, he went to the library that also had public Wi-Fi. So finally, at 3:08 p.m., Dread Pirate Roberts was online. So Jared started chatting with him and tried to lure him into a certain section where only Dread Pirate Roberts could go, and he was successful. So they get him to log into an area of the site that only Dread Pirate Roberts could access. So at this point, the FBI agents gave the signal to grab the laptop and go for the arrest. So at 3:15 p.m., Ross was staring at his computer when he heard a scream from behind him. So he turned around to see what was happening, and when he turned back around, his laptop was gone, and they arrested him. Which, this is literally just a scene out of a movie. This is so,
Yeah. And, Case File went a lot more into it, but it literally sounded like a movie. They had two FBI agents pretending that they were a couple having a fight to distract him.
Oh my gosh.
Someone else was sneaking up, and I'm like, these library workers were just what is happening?
Right. What are we doing today?
Shh, quit yelling.
Excuse me, this is a library. So Ross did ask what he was being arrested for, and the agent held up a paper that said United States versus Ross Albright, aka Dread Pirate Roberts, aka Silk Road. So the laptop was now going to be investigated, and in the few hours that they had it, they backed it up 6 times, because they're like, we cannot lose this information. This is so important.
Yeah.
They also searched his apartment and found 2 thumb drives and 2 pieces of paper in the garbage can that showed where he had been designing a new rating system for Silk Road. And so when they compared it to Silk Road, every word matched. So they're like, we have lots of evidence now that you clearly are involved with this.
Mm-hmm.
So the arrest quickly made news, and the FBI announced that Silk Road had turned over $1.2 billion in revenue, with Ross pocketing $18 million in commission in the 2 years and 10 months that the site had been running. Let that sink in. Not even 3 years, just under 3 years, $1.2 billion in revenue, and Ross made $18 million of that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's a lot.
So this story did make headlines across the nation, and his family denied that, he had done this. They're like, no, there's no way. Ross couldn't do this. He was offered a plea deal before it went to trial, and if he pled guilty, he could serve 10 years to life, but he denied the plea deal. He's like, nope, I'm going to go to trial. So there were 7 charges in total: narcotics trafficking, distribution of narcotics by means of the internet, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics. All of those carried a sentence of 10 years to life, and he was also charged with the kingpin penalty, which is used with these large enterprises. So this can tack on an extra 20 years and even carry the death penalty. And the remaining 3 charges were computer hacking, money laundering, and trafficking false documents. So those 3 charges together could carry a sentence of 40 years to life. However, Ross was not charged with murder. It was considered, since they did find the chat logs about the murder for hire for 6 different individuals, but they know that none of these actually happened. So the first one had been faked, and then for the others, they couldn't find any murders for those dates and times that lined up with the murder for hire. So basically, Ross paid $730,000 for murders that never happened, but he thought they did. So he just got cheated out of all this money because no one actually murdered anyone.
I'm very surprised because, this would be, attempted murder.
Right?
He tried to murder people. And, with the kingpin charge, that could open the death penalty door if you had the attempted murder. Because, with the death penalty, it's only with, very extreme, like somebody died, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like very surprised. Maybe they were like, we have enough. We don't need to add this. But
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been like really, really extreme, very bad. Like,
it's like you thought that you paid someone to kill someone. You thought that like, how is that not, like you said, at least attempted murder? Like,
yeah. And like, I have a lot of opinions about Ross. I do believe ultimately he was a little greedy, but he was had like good thoughts in general. But like the murder for hires that he thought he did, that's when I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's when you lost us.
Tough to swallow. That's
yeah. So Ross felt pretty confident here because he thought they didn't have anything concrete on him because he encrypted his computer. However, computer scientists did find the password and were able to unlock everything on his laptop. So they're like, you're not as good as you thought you were, bud. Mm-hmm. So the FBI had everything. I mean, anything you could possibly need to prove his guilt. So Ross's trial began on January 13th, 2015, and it lasted for 3 weeks. Ross did have a lot of people on his side who believed that he did nothing wrong. They're like, oh, like he just ran a website. Like, if that's a crime, you should go arrest like the CEOs of Craigslist and eBay and everything else too. Like, how is this like illegal? He didn't do anything wrong. Like, people just really rallied behind him. And the defense tried to claim that Ross was set up and the real Dread Pirate Roberts just planted everything on his laptop, that he was just being framed and taking the fall. Which, I mean, like, part of me could see because it's like they so easily were able to hack into everything when this is supposed to be like the ultimate like dark web website. It's like, how would you not be able to encrypt everything well enough, you know? But
yeah, I think also, which obviously the jury's probably not hearing this, or a lot of the public either until after, like, you know, the books and the whatever podcasts come out. But it's like, he didn't really have any background in computers.
Yeah.
He's figuring it out all himself. So he probably is making a lot of mistakes with encryption. Like, he's probably making it easy.
Yeah. But I can see people, like, thinking that, you know, oh, he was set up for this reason.
Yeah, especially, like, when it just comes out and you know that they're not listening to everything else we just said. We're just listening to, this guy's found. Oh, it just lined up. Oh, he's totally framed. Totally framed. Like, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. But the jury did not buy it, and Ross was found guilty. The judge received a lot of letters for people begging for a light sentence, and even Ross himself sent her a letter. It was like, please go easy on me. And the judge, started receiving public threats. Someone even posted her home address and private information online, and people are like threatening to kill her. Like, what? People are really like backing up Ross here, not in a good way. But the threat did not stop her, and on May 29th, 2015, she did sentence Ross to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and this was actually above and beyond what the prosecution even asked for. So Ross's mom, Lynn, and other followers started a campaign called Free Ross and even started a website about it, hence the source in the beginning of the episode. She said that he received an unfair trial and an unfair sentence. She says that from the time he was arrested, he was just treated unfairly. He was kept in solitary confinement, and neither Ross nor his family were told why. He was also denied bail, even after the murder for hire charges were dropped, which, like, those are pretty, you know, I mean, there's a lot of charges, but, like, they weren't as serious of charges that usually result in bail being denied. And in this trial, 2 important witnesses for the defense were not allowed to testify. One was a Bitcoin expert and the other was a computer networking and security expert. And the judge said that both were unnecessary, but they could have benefited in explaining Bitcoin more and then raising doubt about how the FBI found the Silk Road server. So that was denied at his trial. So overall, Lynn says that the FBI kept a controlled narrative before, during, and after the trial. They only represented the facts that fit their narrative and not all of the facts. She does bring up some valid points that Ross was a first-time offender. He was charged on all non-violent charges. So really, we think that they were just trying to make an example of him. They're like, we finally got someone who did all of these things, and legally, when you look at what he can be charged for versus like all the shit that went down on his website, they're like, we just really need to make an example of you.
Yeah.
And on the Free Ross website, you can actually see some of his writings and some more information about him. You can buy a Free Ross t-shirt if y'all are going down that
That's
lane.
What you want.
So Ross was actually sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, and Lynn is complaining that this sentence is only for running Silk Road. She's basically saying, like, he's paying for the crimes that people on Silk Road committed. So she's like, he didn't sell the kidneys, he didn't do this, he didn't do all that, but, like, I mean, you did orchestrate it. Like,
Yeah.
So... but some people still think that Ross is completely innocent and was framed by the real Dread Pirate Roberts. Some think that the evidence was obtained without warrants, but many say that there were proper warrants in place, so they're like, it's not really accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So Variety Jones is believed to be Roger Thomas Clark. He did plead guilty in January 2020 to conspiring to distribute massive quantities of narcotics, and this carries a max sentence of 20 years. So he probably saw what happened to Ross, and he's like, I'm going to take this plea deal. I'm not going to trial. I don't think so.
I'm learning from your mistakes, bud.
So in total, more than 100 people in 41 countries were arrested for buying and selling on Silk Road. And on November 6, 2013, just 1 month after Ross's arrest, Silk Road 2.0 started up. So a moderator from the original Silk Road decided to create this, but it didn't last very long. Some of the moderators were arrested, everything was shut down. Then Silk Road 3.0, other various sites started, but a lot of people are like, I think this is a scam or it's a trap by law enforcement, so they're not really being utilized in the way that the original Silk Road was because, people are afraid of it now, clearly.
Yeah.
So in May 2017, June 2018, and August 2019, Ross lost appeals trying to vacate his life sentence and conviction. Trump actually considered a pardon for him before he left office, but he ended up not granting him one. So that is the wild story of Ross Ulbright and Silk Road.
Yeah, and on that freeross.org, it is a very interesting website. She does bring up some good points. I can kind of see, like, he was not charged, like, the jury did not hear about the murder for hire. Mm-hmm. So I do think first-time offender, you are kind of just sentenced for creating this website. Does seem a little harsh.
I mean, your actual charges are, like, drug-related charges. Like, they're drug trafficking, narcotics trafficking, like, things like that. Like, is that really a life sentence worthy offense?
And also, I mean, again, he orchestrated the site, but he didn't actually, like, traffic the drugs. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, you allowed this space for it to happen, so it's like his sentence seems a little harsh. But his mom on the freeross.org also has, like, a little graphics of, like, other people who were involved in Silk Road, even, like, buyers, sellers, and, like, how much of a lesser sentence they got. Mm-hmm. Like, the guy who did Silk Road 2.0 and all that, like, how they were out in, like, 10 years. Yeah. And she's like, okay, like, maybe let him spend 10 to 20 years, but, like, 2 life, like, sentences plus 40, like, little extreme.
Yeah. I mean, especially...
I feel a little iffy about it.
Yeah, I mean, especially knowing that, like, actual murderers get released from prison. Like, mm-hmm. like, this is, like, the sentences don't really line up with the crimes that were committed, you know? They really don't.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they're making an example of him mm-hmm. and trying to be like, this will be you, which I don't really agree with. It's a tough one, and I want to know, like, how much remorse he's showing. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I think he'd be an idiot if he somehow gets, like, a pardon or something to go create another website. Like, I think he hopefully learned his lesson. Yeah. But, I mean, that is the thing, like, the murder for hire is what gets me, because mm-hmm. he did think he was killing people. It might have just been because they were messing with his site. So that's kind of one of those hindsight things, but in his trial, he should not be sentenced to that when there was no speak of the murder for hire.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if that was brought up, this would be a different conversation. So, like, morally speaking, it's like, yeah, he should be in prison for longer than, you know, just the drug trafficking charges. But legally speaking, it's like, he should not have received the sentence that he did, you know? And I wonder, too, if, like, a lot of that came from, like, these officers just being butthurt that, like, they were working so hard and, like, this guy was, like, evading arrest and, like, was able to, like, mm-hmm. trick them and all this stuff. So they're just like, I'm gonna get you on my little power trip. Like, I wonder how much that's a part of it, you know? Not that the officers have any say in the sentence, but just kind of in terms of how everything went down, I guess.
And I'm very surprised, like, none of his appeals on sentencing have been granted because, like, you know, the judge gave a harsher sentence than the prosecution was even asking for. So I'm like, that feels a little...
And speaking of power trips, I'm like, is that because all these people were threatening her? So she's like, oh, like, all of you who are connected to Ross, but, like, I don't think he orchestrated it, but these people are threatening me because of him, so I'm going to give you the worst possible sentence because I'm mad about it. You know, which, as a judge, you can't really let those feelings dictate your decisions.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. I mean, if you look at his charges, he is a first-time offender, a non-violent offender. Yet that sentence is, you know, tricky. I think it should be reevaluated. Yeah. I don't think I mean, even giving him, like, 20, 40 years, I could understand because there is so much that because you created this site happened. And, you know, you do kind of have to answer for those things. But, yeah, you guys will have to let us know what you guys think. Like, do you think Ross should just be in prison for the rest of his life because of what he started? Again, those murder for hires, they get tricky. I agree. But based on his trial, I don't think he should have the sentence. But let us know what you guys think because I would love to hear your guys' opinions, like the different opinions. Do you think that he was completely set up and he's completely innocent? There's people out there who do. Are you going to go buy a free Ross shirt? If you do, send us a picture. I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, definitely. So we want to hear your thoughts on all of this. This has already been a very long episode, so sorry about that, guys, but hopefully it was worth it because it was a lot of really interesting information. I mean, this was a wild ride from start to finish. Yeah,
we give you guys some, like, shorter episodes sometimes, and then we'll give you a long one in there. You know, kind of, like, switch it up.
Yeah, a little balance, you know? So, all that being said, Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
Okay, my perk of the week, so while this is coming out, I think the week after Halloween, 2 days after Halloween, it's still Halloween season here in this reality, this world, this time frame.
Caffeinated Crimes, alternate reality that we live in that's weeks behind.
Yeah.
It's great.
So basically every year I want to watch scary movies and me and Kevin always end up watching like 2 or 3 and I'm always like sad because I want to watch more. So this year we're watching the scary movies. So we've been watching like 2 to 3 a week and it's just so fun to watch, you know, all these different old scary movies. Like we're watching the Friday the 13th series and Halloween and Friday the 13th and I did just get to watch the new Halloween recently and it was okay. I liked the other one better. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was entertaining, but
yeah, I feel like the older and the originals are always better, you know.
Yeah. And so it's just fun to like watch these movies and like, you know, they're always a little bit unrealistic, a little crazy. So it's just been nice to kind of have that little mental break of just some scary movies. So
yeah,
that is my perk of the week because I'm fully embracing spooky season because I love scary movies and I love Halloween. It's just such a fun time and it kind of feels like fall. It's getting a little cooler. Yes. It's just so nice.
This morning it was like 45 degrees and it's supposed to get up to like mid 60s today, but like actual like fall weather, it's like, ooh, that like morning chill, let me put a hoodie on, this is so exciting.
Yeah, yesterday I was like, Kevin, I want a pumpkin spice latte in my hand. Yes. And I did end up getting, it wasn't a pumpkin spice latte, it was like a pumpkin latte from this place. It was so good.
Yum.
It was amazing. But yeah, so Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is this past Friday night, I went to my first concert since COVID. So obviously it's been like, 2 years since I saw any kind of live music. So I did get to see All Time Low and I got to meet up with a friend there and it was a very nice time. They did require vaccines and I wore my mask the whole time. Some other people did, so felt mostly comfortable. It's still very shocking to be in a place with so many people. Like it feels like not normal now. Like it's a little anxiety inducing. But it was really nice to, be in that like live music environment again, to get to see a band that I've loved for so long and just a really fun time and just very emotional getting to like sing out loud with a group of people, it's just those little things that we all took for granted before COVID that hopefully will continue to be able to be a thing. We say it 100,000 times, please get vaccinated, guys. Like we want this to to move towards normalcy, and so sorry to hop on a soapbox, but that is my perk of the week and also our weekly vaccine soapbox. So
yeah, please do. It is looking hopeful that like vaccines for younger kids are becoming available. So I think especially once, the people who believe in vaccines, their kids can get vaccinated, it's going to feel even more safe. But yeah, please do. I promise you're not microchipped. I promise your DNA is not changed. I promise you're okay. But if you want to tell us what you think about Ross, what your favorite scary movie is, which vaccine you got, are you Team Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson? Or if you're international, I think there's other ones, but I don't know them. Sorry. Tell us what team you are.
Yes.
You can do that on Instagram at Caffeinated Crimes Pod, on Twitter at CAF Crimes Pod, that's CAFF Crimes Pod, on Facebook at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. You can send us an email at caffeinatedcrimespod@gmail.com. All of our episodes are on YouTube at Caffeinated Crimes Podcast. Please be nice, because comments suck there. We're also trying to make some TikToks and trying to be funny. That's Caffeinated Crimes. If you have any ideas for TikToks, send them our way, because sometimes the well runs dry up here in this brain. And if you feel so inclined, if you want 15 bonus episodes that you could listen to right this very second, if you want a monthly Google Hangout, if you want a pin and sticker, if you want to be able to access our Discord, all the goodies, you can do so at patreon.com/caffeinatedcrimes. We would love to have you there. If you have a little bit of extra money you would like to donate our way.
Yes, and even if you guys listen on podcast players and not YouTube, if you just wanted to go to YouTube to leave us nice comments, that would be nice, because you guys here in the podcast player world like us, but apparently YouTube does not very much. So if you just want to go leave us some
we got a comment about how we giggle about children being murdered, and I'm like, I've never done that.
Yeah, no.
Did I laugh when I fucked up a word? Yeah, I'm like, honey, you don't listen to true crime podcasts, do you? Don't listen to My Favorite Murder.
Yeah, no.
You think we're offensive. Not that My Favorite Murder is offensive, but as far as being more lighthearted or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Courtney and I try to stay serious when we need to stay serious, and any giggling or jokes or whatever are not related to the actual cases, especially to a child's death. That's never happened. We've
never laughed at somebody dying.
No.
So
yeah, if you want to go do that, that would be nice. Also, if you want to leave us other nice comments and just feed our ego even more, you can do so by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars would be great. Say some lovely things about us. Don't tell us how we laugh when children die, because we don't. Don't tell me I say too much, because I'm sorry, it happens. I just can't help it. Don't complain about the sound of our voices. That's not cool. Anyway,
I mean, you don't have to listen.
Right? Why are you still here if this is an issue for you? But, so once we reach 50 of those, which hopefully will be soon, as always, we will draw someone to get a $10 gift card to the coffee shop of your choice, as well as a Caffeinated Crime sticker and pin. So make sure that you go do that if you've not already, because we really appreciate it.
Last I checked, we're only 7 away.
Ooh.
So 7 of you people have a chance to get all of those goodies.
Yep.
If you just go leave a review with you can leave a fake name. Just let us know what that fake name is so that we can put you down.
Yep.
But yeah, in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.